Okay, hey, everybody. Welcome to Black Spin, where we keep it real, honey. If you can watch C-SPAN, then you can watch Black Spin. As you can see by today's topics, we're going to be talking about separate but equal, more specifically, the denial of separate but equal. And we're going to um, placate or fall into the actuality or the realization of the civil rights movement, which I honestly do think was a ploy to gain access to white spaces, which we shouldn't have ever wanted in the first place. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, and it's about to go down. Let me plug up a few of my devices, and then let me go ahead and come on camera with you guys. I hope everyone is doing wonderful today, and I hope we're here ready to learn and exchange some ideas and some thoughts, and have a meaningful, impactful discussion. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get it in. Hey guys, welcome to Black Span. I am here. I am here. Do not fear, honey. So let me come on full screen for a moment so we could do like a couple of prerequisites to the chat before we actually get into it. We all know separate but equal was a doctrine that was like I don't know, I want to say from the 40s to the 60s or the 30s to the 50s. It was something like that. It was like a 30-year span where black people put up a fight saying that hey guys, I'm recording, so I need you guys to be quiet. Sit down somewhere and watch a movie. Sorry, excuse me. My nephews are visiting. So just excuse anything you hear in the background. They're children and they're gonna do what they want to do aside from trying to do what I said do. They won't mix it up in there. So anywho, so we're basically separate but equal was saying that hey, y'all stay over there, we stay over here, and you'll be guaranteed the same rights under the law. Now, technically, we were already kind of living this lifestyle. I don't understand why we were fighting to be protected by the same law or by the same group of people that were seemingly oppressing us, lynching us, murdering us, did land grabs and stole most of the indigenous people here, our land, mixed in with us, then turned the biracials against us. This, we all know what happened. So I don't understand why did we ever expect for those lawmakers to put anything into law to protect us. For example, Joe Biden said, I'm not going to do anything specifically for black people. Kamala Harris, same thing. I'm not going to do anything specifically for black people. Yet, Joe Biden, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. What the fuck? And again, Joe Biden, it's a hate crime to hit an Asian, even if you're protecting yourself. You see what I'm saying? And then fast forward, you got this Asian man who shot this black kid. I'm sorry, you shoot mine, expect to be shot in return. But anyway, and nothing seemingly happened. Activists and everybody got involved to try to, help this guy out, to get this guy arrested. But, that law, even in 2021, changing separate but equal was not going to have a positive effect anyway, because the people who were making the laws, the people who were upholding the laws were the same people who put the laws in place for a certain reason. So they're not going to go against their code. They always say black people need to stay on code. Black people need to stay on code. There's no race of people that is more on code than white people. Okay? And they're going to stay on code. And I think that when we understand that and make peace with that fact, then maybe we can gain some type of code. I mean, we don't even have one, Nobody loves their blackness, especially black men. An example of that is all the biracials running around here. Because me personally, even though I procreated with a black man, I definitely wanted my daughter to have my skin complexion. I was like, it was bad enough that she had her father's face. I was like, well, goddamn, can she at least get my color? And can we get something going on in there? I wanted me a little chocolate drop, because my mom used to always call me chocolate drop, and I just want to call my baby chocolate drop. But anyway, that's off the point. I don't want to be filibustering here, but we have to kind of I'm trying to put you guys in the mindset of of the man or the people during the early to mid 1900s, where this separate but equal was actually taking place. You know, it was already ruled in the court of law. There were several court cases. The one that I learned about in college was Plakey, Pelosi, Plessy, Plessy versus something. Well, you know, the black guy who didn't want to give up his seat on the train, and he took it to the Supreme Court and said separate but equal is unconstitutional. That so. And it's like black people, we love to say that we were more successful when we were living separately. And I don't understand why people refuse to believe that the civil rights movement was simply a way for us to get into white spaces. Okay, because even during the Montgomery bus boycott, we had black owned bus companies. We had the Patterson Car Company. We had different means of public transportation that was owned by our own people. Why did Plessy get on a white railroad station or railway station when I believe the Jessup brothers, I can't remember their name, had, excuse me, owned railroads and had railroad trains for him to buy a ticket and ride on. So it's like we were just trying to force ourselves into white society. I'm gonna give you an example so that you can understand. I'm gonna give you a more up to date and current example. It's like when a transgender male wants to be forces his way into all female spaces. You see what I'm saying? How they want to use our restroom and things of that nature, knowing that they're still biologically men. That's the same way we're that black people at the time, and I want to say black men, but I don't want people to get up in an uproar. But you know, all the civil rights, most of the civil rights leaders and things of that nature were black men. That is a fact. All the way from Martin to W.E.B. Du Bois to Thurgood Marshall, all of these are men. Okay, and all the women like Fannie Lou Hamer and things like that who did get famous for being activists for following black male leadership. You know, from Angela on down. So the black man is that transgender woman who's forcing himself or trying to force himself into white spaces. You know what I mean? It's not like we were Neolithic and we were like these Neanderthal savages, like they try to paint us out to be. There were houses, buildings, and monuments here prior to the European arrival. Okay? So we weren't running around like Tonto style and with no shoes. We only owned moccasins, which is an actual shoe for ritual. And that we were wearing feathers and trees and boar fur like that is in skins. That is not how we were living. A teepee is a place of, I'm gonna say, worship, for lack of a better term, where you would smoke it out. You would sit there, not actual smoke, but you would smoke it out with sage and herbs of that nature. You put it on a fire in the middle of a teepee, and you would sit there either with yourself or in communion in a circle and speak to the earth and meditate, basically. Okay, that was what a teepee was used for. And we weren't living out there. We would go out there, do our rituals, and then go in the house. Okay, now back then, of course, they were probably what we would probably equate to maybe a shotgun house. The chieftain and things like that, they had bigger houses and stuff like that, which is how the European got the plantation idea, because the rest of the tribe would live. It was kind of like a plantation. The rest of the tribe was living in their little houses in the back. The chieftain and the chief's family was living in the front of the house. This is not something that they came up with. You know what I mean? Now, granted, in their monarch, you would have the queen living in a big house or a mansion or whatever you want, a palace, but you know, and then everybody else living in houses, but they weren't like derelicts. You know, they weren't. I don't want to get off topic. We get the point that I'm making. So they were trying to force themselves into these white spaces. So the reason why the denial of separate but equal is so agitating to me now, fast forward to 2021, is because when we were living separate, we had a better lifestyle. You know, you wanted us to go to white schools because the facility was better, when you men could have come together and just built a better, bigger school. You knew the education they were teaching us, history and stuff like that, was bullshit. You know what I mean? Because if you could read now, you could read then. You know what I'm saying? The lie that they told historically never changed. You know what I mean? So why didn't we just write our own books and teach our own children? What was the problem with that? Because quite frankly, there wouldn't be such a large group of indigenous people thinking that they're from Africa when genetically we're all from Africa. But again, like I said in my video, you're indigenous, not African. You don't hear Europeans calling themselves Euro African Americans. You see what I'm saying? They're just Americans. You understand what I'm saying? So under separate but equal, we were actually living a better lifestyle. The only thing is we were not able to frequent or enter into white spaces. That was the only problem that people seem to have had. Okay, because there wasn't even a influx of now mind you, there was still white crime, there was still European jealousy because they were trying to force their way into our business society because we were on the verge of such economic growth that we were about to start trading overseas and create overseas bridges to other countries where people look like us were still in rulership. So that's why there was such a burning down of all the black business districts. And if you look at my murder of black entrepreneurship, then you'll see that. So we understand that there was still a violence that was taking place, during that time. And again, the answer to the violence wasn't for us to build our own militias. It was for us to make laws or bequeath the people who were committing the crimes against us to create laws that would protect us from them, even though it's in their best interest to attack us. You see, it doesn't make sense to you either, does it? It does not make sense. Okay? Why? Let's go into the legal definition of separate but equal. I already Googled it and pulled it up for you guys. I was trying to sort of prepare so we wouldn't have to, watch me type and all that stuff because, I am a picker. So anyway, so we're going to go into what separate but equal actually means. And then we're going to go on and I will continue my political commentary. But we have to understand that the denial of separate but equal is very fishy to me. And I wonder what was E.B. Du Bois, Martin Luther King, and all of those black men thinking. Mind you, these are light-skinned, light, bright, almost white men themselves. Okay? Martin Luther King was not a dark-skinned man. He definitely got with a biracial woman. Coretta was not all black herself. She had white grandparents. They were in a loving relationship. It wasn't no rape or nothing like that. A lot of us like to think that, we were mixed back then because of rape. No, it wasn't because of rape, honey. A lot of those black men were willingly sleeping with white women and getting them pregnant. It didn't all come from the womb of a black woman. All biracial kids did not come from us in those times. We're talking about after slavery, after Reconstruction. You see what I'm saying? So at that time, we could have all got back to black and only copulated with one another to refill our ranks. But there's that obsession with European culture and how they ran things. Maybe men at that time were in awe of their aggressiveness and their leadership skills, and they want to be like them. I do not know. I don't understand it. I don't pretend to understand the pathology that was taking place in black men during that time. All I know is separate but equal was offered to us. It was given to us, and we denied it. They denied it. And the reason being is because they wanted interest into white spaces. I looked up several Supreme Court cases throughout my academic career, and it all boiled down to wanting to be in white spaces. We had our own black restaurants at the time. Everybody loved to say white folk can't cook. They couldn't cook back then. Excuse me, I just ate a bunch of seafood and a bunch of garlic, so excuse me. So they couldn't cook during that time either. But yet we want to go do sit-ins in their restaurant and force them to serve us. Meanwhile us doing this is bringing more attention and more influx and more money to their businesses. right? And taking the focus off of the black businesses. During the civil rights movement, so many black businesses closed. I mean, closed, bankrupt, couldn't afford to stay open, from the black grocery stores on down. Yes, we had our own grocery stores. Where do you think we got our food from? We weren't allowed in their grocery stores. So since we weren't allowed in their grocery stores, where do you think we were eating it? It wasn't until the 1925 to 1930 where you saw a rise in black entrepreneurship and black businesses and black conglomerates, what we would call a conglomerate or a corporation now. When in 1920s, 1930s, you saw a rise in that. So we had our own movie theaters because they wouldn't let us in there. As a matter of fact, it's not that they wouldn't let us in their movie theater. We did not want to go to their movie theaters because their entertainment was so racially offensive. This is during the time of the minstrel show and things like that. So we didn't want to be in their spaces. They couldn't act, they couldn't sing, they couldn't dance. Matter of fact, the only actors and actresses that were popular were the ones that pretended to be black. Okay? And if we had just stuck to our blackness and stuck to the pride of being black, we would have been so much better off now, right? So let's go back to separate but equal. So we're gonna hit the escape button, and I pulled it up here. Okay. Okay, I didn't realize that it was all just straight Wikipedia. There he is. Right here. This is the Plessy versus Ferguson. This is the thing about the train, right? We'll go back to that when I start pulling up my examples. Board of Education, separate but equal, Jim Crow. And actually, the Jim Crow came after this young man went to court about that, and he was like, "Okay, fine, we're gonna give y'all separate everything. Y'all get your own water fountain, you get your own toilet, you get your own everything. Don't expect us to clean it." Here we go. I guess we'll just have to go with old Wiki, because I'm not a fan of the History Channel. It tends to be biased, very, very biased. Okay, so separate but equal was a legal doctrine. Can you see? Oh well, you don't need to see me. Separate but equal was a legal doctrine under the United States constitutional law, according to which racial segregation did not necessarily violate the 14th Amendment of the United States. The 14th Amendment is the equal protection of the law thing. We'll click on it real quick. So, oh, dang it. Go back. I meant to slide on the hyperlink, not click it. Here we go. Okay, the United States Constitution was adopted in 1868 as one of the Reconstruction Amendments. Now, you know, Reconstruction came after the Civil War when black people were quote-unquote freed, when they were emancipated, or whatever you want to look at it. Emancipation only means to change ownership, but that's for a different video. Okay, let's see. Reconstruction Amendments, often considered one of the most consequential amendments. It addresses citizenship rights and equal protection under the law, and was maybe I do need to click, and was a response protection under the law, and was proposed in response to issues related to former slaves following the Civil War. The amendment was bitterly contested practically by the states that defended the Confederacy, which was forced to ratify in order to regain representation in Congress. Oh, really? I didn't realize that. The amendment was bitterly contested practically by the states that defended the Confederacy, which were forced to ratify it in order to regain representation in Congress. So they had to bow down so they could go back into the House. So that's probably how they got Jim Crow and stuff like that passed. Okay, let's see. The amendment was practically the first section in which one of the most illegitimate illegated parts of the Constitution, forming the basis landmark of Supreme Court conditions such as Brown versus Wade, blah blah blah. So we got it. It was made after the Civil War during Reconstruction that granted us equal protection under the law. It didn't say the law would apply to us. It did or anything like that. It just simply said there will be no violence against us. We will be protected by law. So if someone stole our stuff, we would have the right to they would be arrested. If someone murdered us, they would be arrested. It will be a crime to murder us now. But they still lynched us, right? It'll be a crime to take our land without purchase. Things like that. Like, I have the right to own a business. I have the right to open a business and set up commerce and stuff like that. That's what the 14th Amendment basically was all about. There were a few other amendments during that time, but we're going to focus on the 14th Amendment because it has directly to do with the separate but equal. Okay, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution was guaranteed equal protection under the law to all people. Under this doctrine, as long as the facilities provided to each race were equal, state and local governments could require that services such as public accommodations, housing, Medicare, education, employment, and transportation transportation to be separated by race, which is already the case throughout the states of the former Confederacy. Remember, they were already living like this. And it wasn't just down south, because those are the states that were in the Confederacy. It was up north as well. They were all living a separate but equal lifestyle. Up north, same thing. Now, black people did business with white people more. It was more common up north, but they were still coming to black people to make my garment, hem my dress, watch my kids, wash my clothes. They were still hiring them, or hiring their companies rather, and things of that nature. But for the most part, we lived on our side of the tracks. Mississippi still is segregated, and they're living on their side of the track with no problem. I have no idea where I am, guys. Do you see the camera? Okay, maybe if I move this. Oh, there I am. Hey. So now you see what separate but equal means. Like I said previously, we were already living a separate but equal lifestyle. Okay. We were treated the same no matter what. So the response would not have been to segregate, to desegregate, and immerse ourselves or ingratiate ourselves in the European sphere. The answer that sounds counterproductive. Even to me, if I was living in the 40s and 50s, that would sound counterproductive to me. Why would I want that? Okay, yeah, separate but equal, right? So the train station, for example, because during this time, they was burning down all the black companies and stuff like that. Even though they were still there, they were sparse. So they had to provide a black restroom and a white restroom. The black restroom is always dirty and filthy. I'm going to take you to that TV show Boondocks, where he went and took a poop in the white restroom, right? Because the black one was filthy. But why would a black person just take it upon themselves to either clean that restroom or to not do business in that place? If you know they're not going to clean it, they're going to treat us like shit anyway. Why not just say, hey, we're going to go and clean up all the black stuff. All the stuff that's black, the water fountains, everything that's meant for us, we're going to go clean it up and make sure it's nice and presentable for us. Like, what? Duh. Either don't go there, don't use it, or clean it your damn self. Why would you expect this racist white man to go scrub a toilet that's for you? Under law, you ask for that toilet, but you don't want to maintain it? You see what I'm saying? You get my point here? So it's like when I use the sit-ins for an example. Why were you sitting in this white folks restaurant? What was going on with their cornbread that would made it so much better that you just had to eat there? And I know you guys think that it was a bigger picture. No, it was not. It was not a bigger picture. It was simply to ingratiate ourselves into white spaces, their neighborhoods and everything. Even to this day, fast forward 2021, we still think white schools are better. Even though they receive the same oppressive education in the hood. All you doing is making them more comfortable in white society and turn their nose down at the other black people who are not there. Because I went to white schools I went to mixed schools and I went to predominantly black schools. You know what I mean? When I was in high school, I went to damn near every high school in the city that I'm in. And I will tell you that black people that are in those white schools, their parents think they're better than the other parents, and those students think they're better than the students. That's why most of those end up dating and marrying white. Because they're taught that white is better. How are you saying they're taught that white is better? Because they hear mommy and daddy saying, I'm going to send my kids to this white school because it's better. So white supremacy is upkept and maintained by us. Okay? Black people are making white supremacy so prevalent in today's society, just like they did back then. The white ice is colder than black ice came from the 1940s through the 60s. Okay? So that's where we get that white is better. You know what I mean? And it's like whenever they go to Supreme Court, it's always to be in white people's shit. I want to sit with the white people sitting there on the train. I wanna marry a white woman. I want to do all of these things, to ingratiate myself into white culture. But when you're fighting to ingratiate or to put yourselves in this other race's culture, then yours gets dwindled down by the wayside because you're not paying attention to it anymore. You're not giving it any love. You're not building up black schools. You're not building a a black education system that teaches at least the fundamentals of life and the fundamentals of math and the fundamentals of history. The black history is gone out the door. And it didn't come back in the door until the 70s when you have people like Neely Jr. and you have people like Carter G. Woodson and stuff like that. For a long time, black history and black education was just non-existent. Because we weren't worried about it. We wanted to learn what them white folk was learning. But what them white folks was learning was how to maintain the status quo of their own race. They were learning how to stay on code, which is why a lot of us are off code. You know what I mean? Because we denied separate but equal. Of course, bro, let's be realistic. White people aren't treated like black people in black spaces back then. Well, you know what? We did treat them fair. We let them use our clean restrooms and dance in our clubs and all that stuff. But when I go to my little black history museums that are coordinated and made by black people, I do see where black people had nightclubs and things like that that said no white people allowed. They love to put on TV that black people are so accepting. But at the same, and you should watch My Secret Daughter because a white woman said that. That black women are so accepting and so loving and so this and so that. Oh, and they just accept anybody, even a Mormon, and we know, or a Jewish or a J person, and we know that they're the biggest race conquerors of them all, the biggest conquistadors. However, we wanted that same, I guess, hospitality when dealing in white spaces, but you have to understand that is something that we shouldn't have been worried about. We should have been worried about educating our own kids and the right education. The reason why black people don't know if they're indigenous to this land is because we didn't teach our children their history. We'd rather teach them the history of Kemet, a country that we are only genetically from. You know what I mean? Not geographically. You see what I'm saying? So we didn't teach them the history of this continent that we are from, that we're indigenous to. Instead, we go all the way to Africa and tell them, oh, they was kings and queens. But we don't know nothing about the chiefs here. The only reason we know about Pocahontas is because white people told us, and then they lied. They didn't tell us that girl was 12. She was kidnapped in order for the chief to show white folk how to grow certain crops such as tobacco. And then he raped her, kept her, took her back home, and she died on a boat at the bottom of a boat trying to get her ass back over here to her family. But if black people would have taught themselves the truth, then you wouldn't have had that Sicilian man talking about plant a tree and he's an Indian. What was his name? Sitting Bull, Red Bull, whatever his name was. You know what I mean? That was a whole Spaniard. But we denied separate but equal. And in the denial of separate but equal, Look at what happened to us now. And I wonder if this is what they wanted the whole time. If they just want to be able to live in white neighborhoods when you could have just built a better black neighborhood for yourself. It makes no sense to me. Even now, and see that pathology, that same mentality dwindled down 100 years later. Because now we think that the better place to live is a white neighborhood. The better schools is a white school. If it's white, it's right. Everybody thinks like that. You know what I mean? Excuse me for one moment. What did I say? What did I say? Sit the fuck down, excuse me, and watch a movie. I am recording. All right. I'm back. Okay, so we have to kind of understand the mentality of the black male leadership during that time. Why did he want to go to white restaurants? They can't cook. Did they feel like that was a badge of honor to be able to go into a white owned bank instead of a black owned bank? They let us in it because Black Pride, the Black Pride movement would not have been needed in the 60s or 70s if the civil rights movement of the 40s through the 60s was about black pride. If it was about taking pride in your blackness, because if you are proud of your blackness, right, then you're not going to give a damn about being able to eat at a white restaurant because you're so proud to be black. You know goddamn well you finna go eat this black restaurant because it's going to be better. You know what I mean? You're going to automatically do business with the Patterson Car Company and not the Yellow Cab Company or not the Haynes Car Company because Patterson Car Company is black owned. You're going to get on the black owned buses. If you don't believe we had buses, okay, boom. Let me show you. We basically invented public transportation. Now, the reason why it was important for me to pull up these black owned bus stations in Atlanta was because remember the bus boycott. This is where what's his name is from? Martin is from. Well, they was begging to get on the white folk bus because they didn't want to sit on the back. Okay, but on the black bus, you can sit your ass wherever you want to. So again, was the civil rights movement simply about getting their black asses into white spaces? Because we had already created spaces of our own. Martin and them ancestors, the ones who knew they were indigenous people to this land. Remember, a black person created the assembly line to mass produce vehicles in the first place. So do you really think that black people wasn't mass producing their own vehicles? You have black owned car companies, black owned car designs. Everything was black during that time. Which if it wasn't, then why was white people so jealous and trying to blow their way into black commerce? Because remember, these are poor peasant immigrants. Okay? They're the peasant, the broke, the poor, the tired, the sick, the weary of Ellis Station. Remember that. Keep that in the back of your mind. These are peasants. They have no idea how to function here at all. They left their home to come here because they heard that of manifest destiny, and they had these niggas in check, and it was going down here. And they needed more white folk to fill the ranks any goddamn way. Bring your ass on. We over here stealing land. We're balling out of control. Even the little land they had, because even after slavery, when we left out those POW camps, because we were prisoners of war, not slaves. Some of us were even indentured service, which is why I didn't understand why black people got so mad when they put the truth in history books. But anyway, so because those Africans that came here were white Africans, okay, from Cape Town by way of Europe. Because at the time there was only one, the Gulf Stream was really the only way to get here, and you would have to get here through Spain or Europe. So to get from Africa to Europe is a hop, skip, and a jump. They would get to Africa, and then they would go to Europe. And then they will come here on that Gulf Stream. If you don't believe me, look it up. Now, anyway, so we had bus companies. We had our own everything. Let's look up black-owned car companies or black-owned public transportation. Transportation. And we just got America. This is the 40s and the 60s. Now remember, during the bus boycott, they used the black bus companies for free to get to work so they could stay off them white buses. But as soon as they got the right, they forgot about those black companies that they basically marginalized and used as an example. We don't need y'all buses. We can catch these buses. Then white folks start laying off white folks, and their companies start going down under. Then they say, "Oh my God, y'all can sit where y'all want to sit. Just come and ride our buses again." And we prance our ass over there, thank you, Rosa, and hop on their bus. And all these bus companies that was riding us around for free to just prove a point went under and belly up, and all that was left was the black-owned companies. So I'm going to ask you again, was the civil rights movement about us, the betterment of black people, or was it really about certain black people wanting to ingratiate themselves in white society? We know W.E.B. bitch-ass Du Bois was fake. We know he was taught by Franz Boas and Ervil Merhokovitz. I can't say his name right. From I believe Harvard. Merhokovitz. Whatever his name was. Ervil. Whatever. Y'all, I did a video on him. Go down there and find it. So we already know that about him. So why was it denied? You know, Thurgood Marshall was one of the main ones. Matter of fact, I pulled that up too. Because I don't want y'all to think I'm lying on black men. I'm lying on black male leadership. I'm telling you, this is what it was. Black women and black men were getting ate up by dogs together. Okay? Together. So, we were following y'all leadership right into the white folk neighborhood. So now there is no black education. Black people are being miseducated across the globe. If you read Dr. Carter G. Woodson's book, The Miseducation of the Negro, he will tell you we miseducated ourselves by thinking that we could be educated by white folk. I paraphrased a little bit, but he definitely said by white folk. So go read that book. Because that's where a lot of our misconceptions of ourselves come from. Because we didn't want to build better black schools. Just fucking, we just go in their building. And all the schools are named after white supremacists. And no one see a problem with that. Go to Kirby. Go to Polk High, and go to all these schools that we know were named after basically Confederate soldiers and stuff like that. Go to Robert E. Lee. You see what I'm saying? But we fought for the right to do what? To lose our own identity? Why? Because every time we go, and it's not just me, tell me is it y'all as well. Every time we go to these fancy white folk restaurants, we complain about the portion, and we damn sure complain about the flavor. We do. Truffle oil was used as a bug repellent. All of a sudden, y'all want to eat truffle mac and cheese. Y'all know that shit is nasty. But okay. Third good. Here it is. I already put it up. I'm not really a fan of Wikipedia, but here's some of the questions other people ask. And I like this page because I was thinking the same thing, and it helped me go straight to the points that I wanted to make. So, what does separate but equal mean in simple terms? So, I think we covered that already. It was a doctrine that was put forth that said everybody should be provided their own separate facilities, period. Okay? And then, Brown versus the Board of Education, all that stuff transpired after the fact. So they gave us separate but equal first. We didn't want that. It's like people were like, the government was building I'm going to use school for example because that was their main thing, education. So the government was building these awesome buildings that for the white kids to go to school, and we were getting the back of the church. What was wrong with the back of the church? I was homeschooled as a child. If we was taught in the back of a church, there's nothing wrong with that. Not that I'm an older woman. It's just that my family are very traditional, and they knew better than to send us to school with the white ISIS code and black ISIS mentality. So anybody that went to school with me or that was educated with me knew I was smart when I got there. Okay? My teachers had problems with me because I knew that they was on some bullshit. That's not what happened. That's not why the Spanish-American War happened. You're lying. You're making that up. That is not true. That is not absolute math. It's the easier way to do proportions. See, so I gave my teachers hell, period. And after a while, I just stopped going to their classes because they would either put me out, call me argumentative, or you know what I mean? So it just got to the point to where I was like, you know what? I'm good. I am good. I'm just not going to be here. I used to write myself up, suspend myself, go get all my work from my teachers, fill all that shit out, and turn it in after my suspension. Because what we have to understand is that if we were to educate our own youth, then just maybe, they would be a credit to their own society. All of these young black males who say that they don't date black girls, they don't like black girls. I did a video on that. Find it down below. Is it really because they're learning that? Is that really a learned behavior? Because it's not natural. That's not how biology works. As far as that's not how biology works as far as mating. Okay? Your body, your brain chemistry automatically tells you to mate with yourself to create more of yourself. That's human nature. Okay? Period. But they get that learned behavior that white is right and white ice is colder than black ice. Guess where they get it from? They get it from their parents. People, what I notice is black people love to blame white people for their problems. Even if they started your problem, you kept it going. You had a problem with desegregation, separate but equal, when you could have just made your separate better. See, but I think that the black male leadership knew that in the 20s, which was just 20 years prior, so Martin and all of them were alive during the time where black business was being burnt down, where black business owners were being murdered, and their stores were literally just being taken over by squatters. You know what I mean? But these are poor, white, uprooted, undergird savages that wanted to get ahead. So yeah, they kicked Doyo stove, bust their guns on everybody in that bitch. And at the time, black people could have had guns too. Because if I was in the Civil War, I'd have used a piece, stashed a piece. Used a piece, stashed a piece. I'd have picked up the gun from every white man that I killed. There were ways that we cannot continue to believe the stories that they tell us. Okay? That's our problem now. That's how we're miseducated. So we could have and should have picked up arms to protect our stuff. So instead of us learning a lesson, okay, next time we open a store, we're going to open a store together with at least 2 or 3 families, right? And one family will live upstairs each, in rotation, and we're going to protect our shit. Just like in Florida, when those, Iranians, they're still white, but culturally they're ethnically Iranian or Arab, were standing on top of their store picking motherfuckers off. Because you're not going to rob our shit. You're not going to take our store. So why didn't we have that same aggressive response to their aggression? Fear, right? So So your scary ass wants to just send us to the white school instead of building us a school. I'd rather be educated in a school that can or cannot be bombed versus going to school and being miseducated. Right? So why was the response was just go to the white school when your school gets bombed instead of just build another school and then go bomb the white school? You bomb me, I bomb you back. Because eventually America would have gotten tired of the violence and said, look, we're gonna stop bombing y'all, y'all stop bombing us, and we're gonna be cool. That's exactly what happened in Iraq. Don't let the news fool you. They got tired of suicide bombers blowing up their shit. Every time they build something American, they come through that bitch strapped to the chest with bombs strapped to them, they lady and they baby, and they blowing the shit up because you got them fucked up. So they had to come to the table and talk to them people because they couldn't bully them. Right? But we allowed ourselves to get bullied. And then the trick came in is they sent people that looked like us in there to talk to us and tell us what to do. Right? And we fell for a hook, line, and sinker. Okay, so now we know what that is, right? Now, who was against separate but equal? NAACP led by Thurgood Marshall. Like Bright. Let's see. What do I click here? Is that right? No. Go back. I want to see this hyperlink. Let me just search for it. Okay, then maybe this will take me. See, this is taking me to the same article that we went through first. Okay, let me just find it. Okay, here we go. That's what I wanted it to do at first. Take me here. So, the Warren Court. In 1953, Earl Warren. You see who Earl is, right? Now, remember I told you this was during the 40s and the 60s, the 40s to the 60s, right? Okay. Became Chief Justice of the United States. Warren started a liberal constitutional revolution which outlawed racial segregation and separate but equal throughout the United States. Now remember, we were complaining about racial segregation. We were complaining about where we lived and housing opportunities, but we still end up redlining in the future because no matter what law they write, they're gonna write another law to contradict that law to still so that they can still stay on code. And it doesn't take a genius. After the first time, after the Peace and Friendship Treaty, and then comes the Indian Removal Act, it's like they always create another law to denounce that law, and so they can go against their previously agreed upon decision with the indigenous people of this land. So instead of learning a lesson and not doing business with them at all, we continuously going to ask them, "Oh, can you not murder us?" Remember what Tupac say? I'm picking the lock and I'm coming in slow, But no, he said, "What you want us to do? Ask." That's exactly what we keep doing. We keep asking. So this guy, he says, okay, I'm going to give y'all separate but equal throughout the United States, right? Which was a landmark ruling because he was like, what the fuck is he doing? We don't want them to come over here and eat. We don't want them to come over here and shop. We don't want them here. Fuck it. I'm tired of them coming to the Supreme Court with this bullshit. I'm going to make everything separate but equal where they have their own separate accommodations in each building. Kind of like fast forward today, the LGBT community is trying to get separate but equal where they get to go use a ladies' facility. I mean, they don't like separate but equal. Hey, you're separate from the straights, but you're still equal as a person. They don't want that. They're denying separate but equal, and they say the trans boys need to go in there with the natural born women. The trans girls need to go in there with the natural born men, and that's it. They don't want separate but equal. And I keep using that as an example because it's current, so that you have a reference point to what I'm saying. Okay, so we didn't want separate but equal. Even though we was rich as shit. There were more black corporations. We had more inventions. We had more of everything, from our own motor vehicles to our own real estate firms to our own national banks. We had our own everything under the separate but equal laws. Understand that there was still racial tensions, there was still violence, especially in the South, but that was a small thing to deal with considering the financial independence and the economic growth and the economic impact that we had. Had we kept going how we were going, we would be on top of this continent here. Do we understand that part? So the denial of separate but equal was not about white people being friendly with us. It was not about that. No. It was about us looking up to white folk and wanting to be like them, not realizing they were trying to be like us. White boys won't walk around in suits and stuff. Y'all see the old pictures from the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, where the black man had on the suit and the white man had on them busted up ass, busted brown shoes, them two big ass pants tied together with a rope, the hillbilly look. You know, hillbilly the term actually came from those white European peasants who came here, who immigrated here, looking for new residents. They ain't have shit. So they want to be like us. They want to walk around in three-piece suits, tailored to fit. They wanted their own car companies. They wanted their own stores. They didn't want to have to come buy from us. They didn't want to have us teach them how to do land. So they came up with those laws. Like, where's my Martin Luther King speech? The only speech I liked that he ever gave was the one in 1968, where he really broke it down. When he hopped off script, that's when they killed his ass. Understand that. Let's go back here, because y'all know I'll go on a whole tangent. Landmark rulings. So these are the separate but equal rulings. I'm only going to highlight them because I want you to look them up. I'm already familiar with them. Okay, so look up the Racial Integrity Act. I'm going to say it again, the Racial Integrity Act. Look up the course decision. Okay, look up the, where is it at? The court's decision, separate is not equal. Okay, that's a very important one. The only reason that one is so important because black people were complaining that separate was not equal, but they got to understand that white people came up from nothing in this bitch. Nothing. And they made a way to build them those fine schools that we were jealous of. If we would just focus on rebuilding our stuff and blow their stuff up. They blow up our shit. They was just using like the shit that we drink as liquor now and blowing up these schools. Why we wasn't blowing their shit back up? When the 4 color girls died in that church, why wasn't their synagogues or their whatever Jewish people pray in or whatever Arabs praying, whoever was here at the time, why wasn't we blowing up their stuff, their Methodist church, their Mormon churches? You see what I'm saying? It's like we were not meeting their violence and defiance with equal violence and defiance. So that's what was not equal. Our response to the inequity is what wasn't equal. If we responded the same way they responded, we wouldn't have the problems we have now. Okay, because black people love to say they're so feared that black ladies clench their purse when we walk, when a black person walk by. The fuck? Because they think you're a thief. It's not because they're scared of you. It's because they just don't want you to take their shit. The fuck? And then how many black men put their hand on their gun when they walking across other black people? Because you don't know if them motherfuckers gonna rob your ass or not. So if we had met their opposition with more opposition, if we had met their defiance with more defiance, that's what was equal. I'll say it again at the risk of sounding redundant. Our response to their aggression wasn't equal. We want to go this political paper route when they wrote those laws. Duh. Then they'll write another law to contradict that law. So let's go back here. And that one's okay. You can look at it, but it really is it's really kind of regurgitative of the first one. Okay, the Board of Education, we're familiar with that one. And then these last couple cases really just people complaining about, oh, I went to the black room in the hotel, it wasn't the same. Why didn't you go to a black owned hotel? There's a black owned hotel that was right in the middle of Fifth Ward, right off 59, where black celebrities used to stay at. But they would complain that it wasn't as fine as the white hotels. When why not help build that one up? That hotel was built. Okay? And a lot of the things that were built for white folk, built for white folks, was built by black hands. So those same black people could have built their shit. One of the first black superintendents in one of the smaller districts in the city that I'm from, he stole materials from several job sites to build him a home, right? This was like in the 90s, to build him a home, right? The only reason he got caught in with the prison because his son got mad because he wouldn't build him one. So he snitched on his dad, and his daddy went to prison and lost his job as a superintendent. I ain't gonna say no names. He was a doctor. Look him up. His son snitched on him. Yes, his sister stayed around the corner from my mom. They were actually pretty cool. So anyway, remember I told y'all when I did come to the city, I grew up around doctors and lawyers and PhDs and stuff like that. He was one of the ones I grew up around. So anyway, so why did we not have that mentality then? They're building them a nice school. We're gonna funnel some of these out of here, brick by brick, and then go fix up Phyllis's church house where they're teaching the black kids at. Because if they're hiring you to build this marvelous, magnificent school for these white children, then that means you know how to build. You just didn't want to build your own school. You wanted the society that you made dominant, because we were the dominant society at first. Black men gave their dominance because they're the leader, right? They say they're the leader until you call out the falsities or the flaws in their leadership. But anyway, black men purposely gave their dominance to the now dominant society. These were broken down peasants. They love to say, oh, we built monuments and the Moors did this and black people did this and we made the pyramids. Oh, you made all that shit then, but you couldn't make no school. You want to send this little girl through the army and get spit on and beer and piss and shit thrown at her, traumatize this girl so that she could go be the first black kid at a white school, just to be set behind the class and ignored. For white people to say, oh, bitch, you can't be nothing but a janitor. So her enthusiasm can be curbed. Oh, girl, you're a lawyer. Surely you just. You being a caregiver, right? Naturally, you'd be a great wet nurse. So you sent them to school for that? So why was it so important to be in these white spaces? Is it these Supreme Court cases where black men were begging the Supreme Court to marry these white women? Did they have something to do with it? I'm just asking. Because I don't see the benefit of barging especially during that time, I don't see the benefit of us barging our way into these white spaces and nesting in Europeanness. I don't see the benefit. So I'm asking, like, was it just so we could go get in white spaces? The civil rights movement had nothing to do with us, because once they got the right to eat, sleep, and shit, what white people do, they stopped. By the time the 68, 70 came, the civil rights movement was over with. Okay, we can marry white bitches, we can have mixed babies, we can eat at their restaurants, and now it's a man-woman restroom, and that's it, and we good. That's it. The civil rights movement halted after that. Am I lying or am I telling the truth? Right? Once Lyndon B. Johnson said, all right, y'all can piss and shit and everything in the same facility. Y'all can go to the schools with these white folk. Cool. You can marry them. You can impregnate them. All that shit. Once that shit was signed, that was it. Then Martin realized that was some bullshit. And in 1968, he said it. Then after he said it, he got off script. He was killed. And then we didn't see a leader for damn near 10 years until the Panthers come along. And there was actually a white group called the Panthers before there was a Black Panthers. That's why they had to call themselves the Black Panthers, because the regular Panthers was a white kind of, I don't want to say they were really, really to the left. You know what I mean? They were liberals. That's what I mean. They were very liberal and stuff like that. So it's like the Republicans said, all right, cool, separate but equal. Then here come the Democrats, and then they tell your ass, oh, you come up here and live with us. It's fine. And we're cool with that. Okay. Child. So just ask yourself the question. And I really want, when y'all watch this video, I really am interested in your comments, because I want to know, why was that a problem? Why was separate but equal such a big problem? Why? So why was the Jim Crow laws even necessary? Were the state and local laws enforced racial segregation in the southern United States and elsewhere in the United States? These laws were enacted in the late 19th and early 20th centuries by Southern Democrat. Y'all love them Democrats though. Where did I stop at? Southern Democrat-dominated state legislature to defranchise and remove political and economic gains made by black people during the Reconstruction period. Okay. Jim Crow laws were enforced until 1965. Now, what was Jim Crow laws exactly? In practice, Jim Crow laws mandated racial segregation in all public facilities. In the United States, the former Confederate States of America, and in some others beginning in the 1870s, Jim Crow laws were upheld in 1896 in the case of, okay, this is when the guy had to ride the train again, and he was pissed off about it, in which the United States Supreme Court laid out its separate but equal legal doctrine for facilities for African Americans. However, public education had essentially been segregated since the establishment of most of the South after the Civil War. Because remember, prior to the Civil War, a lot of education was taken in the back room, in the back house, in the back of the church. You know what I mean? They didn't start, it wasn't until the Civil War blew up everything and fucked up everything, so they decided to make separate buildings for education and dedicate those buildings to education. During that time, black people got rich. Black-owned construction companies got rich as shit. This is what I'm saying. Black people have always gotten rich and squandered off their riches to white society. Black construction companies got rich building these schools and then complained that black people had better schools. What's the name of that construction company? I'm going to show you, because I don't want y'all to think I'm just up here filibustering making shit up. Okay, black-owned. Oh, shit. Companies. I can't think of the name of it. These are current. I need the older ones. The kind of black business. We're going to read that. Let me save this real quick. I was looking for this. I was looking for this article and I lost it. So, shit. Everybody saw that. Okay. Where I can't think of the name of it. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. You know, I hate when I forget stuff. Okay, so he was a wealthy construction worker. He made a lot of his money building a lot of these buildings that black people got quote unquote jealous of. And then he was actually one of the guys that went to Supreme Court to marry a white woman. So with his riches, he wanted to do a wealth transfer to a white woman. And I'm a few years ago, before I even had a YouTube channel, I actually looked the guy up, and because by last name, I can't think of it. And the construction company is actually still in existence in I want to say in Alabama. And guess what? They're all white. I bet they don't even know that was a black man's construction company. Like, his biracial kids married white people, and they kept his business going. But the picture, there's a picture of an old white man in the office. Like, it's crazy. I'm gonna do a video on that so I can show y'all that wealth transfer is real. But they had black construction companies that got rich off building some of these magnificent, marvelous educational facilities, but they didn't think to build one for themselves. Then said, "Oh, we're just gonna send our kids to that school." Why? White folk paid you to build that for their kids. Why don't you pay another company or build a building even better? Since you built that one, you can build one even better for your kids to go to. You see what I'm saying? It's crazy, right? So I'm getting ready to wrap this up. I just wanted y'all to kind of put it in your head that desegregation, the civil rights movement, it was not for black people's embetterment. It was for black people, black men specifically, to have access to white spaces. Because remember, they always tell you men want what they can't have. Not people. The saying is men want what they can't have. Remember, that's how people tell little girls, you was taught how to get a boyfriend because they don't want the easy girl they have access to. They want what they can't have. You see what I'm saying? So when they told them, "Oh, you can't use this restroom, you gotta use that restroom," that made them want to use that restroom. You see what I'm saying? So not only did white people bogart their way into our economic power and steal it from under us because we were not watching it. We were so busy worried about socially, what was going on socially, till we didn't see what was going on economically. It's like they had us focused on this, but they I was on the prize the whole time. And they swooped in and stole our economic foundation right from under us. So basically, the civil rights movement was just so we could get into white spaces. And that's a fact. I don't want nobody to argue with me in my comments. I don't want none of that. That is a fact. You wanted access to white spaces. You wanted access to white women, white food, white education, all of that. What made white education better than black education? White people are going to teach white people shit. Black people teach black people shit. Maybe we wouldn't be referring to ourselves as black had we been focused on what was really happening. Maybe two Negroes wouldn't have been giving birth to a colored person. Two colored people didn't give birth. No, two Negroes give birth to a colored person. Two colored people give birth to a black person. But who gave birth to the Negro? Two indigenous people. You see what I'm saying? Two free people of color gave birth to two free people of color, indigenous people that we call Indians, gave birth to a Negro. Two Negroes gave birth to a colored person. Two colored people gave birth to a black person. See, all this racist, sensitive shit is taking place while we are begging to go sit at their table and eat their unseasoned chicken and their unrinsed food. Why? I'm starting to believe what I'm hearing. These other women saying that black men just only want to screw white women, legally, without getting lynched and hung for it. And even back then, white women did not talk to broke ass black men to come up with them, to stay down for the come up. Even Malcolm X, even though he was a hustler in the hood, he was not broke. He had money. He wasn't going there getting a conch and a brand new suit with his other homeboy broke. He was working and hustling. And he had that persona, that mysterious mystique going on. So stop it, y'all. So once we can come to terms with the truth of the civil rights movement and how it was a detriment to our society, then we can then begin to unravel it and recompose ourselves as a people. Okay? We can now say, you know what? Like, for example, we're going to pick a black neighborhood with a lot of land. Let's say Acres Home, for example, down in Houston. Let's just say Acres Home, right? Full of land, fertile land at that. You know, horses eat that grass. That stuff is fertile. It's very country. The houses are built on lots and plots. So if we took that and decided all the rich black people that are in the Houston area moved out of the lands, the woodlands, the sugar lands, and all that there, and built there, then that neighborhood will be full of mansions with pools in the backyard. It will become a gated community full of affluent black people. Right? If we then rename all of those schools that's there, because in order to have a community, you need a hospital and an education system and a banking system. There's banks there, there are schools there, and we can have it all. Just turn all that stuff black. But we can't do that until we get this white ice is coated in black ice mentality out of our minds, which is why I named this video The Denial of Separate But Equal. There's nothing wrong with separate but equal. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Yeah, when we would cross those tracks and went to the other side, we was treated like shit. All the more reason not to go over there. Let them poor white folk be poor white folk. We balling out control over here on this side of the track. Why go over there to the dusty, dirty, dingy trailer park trash ass? And when they started coming up, started gaining political value, it was on our backs from stealing our companies, our business, setting fire to our stores, and then reopening up in their name, in their face, in their image. And we allowed that to happen because we did not put up an equal fight. Our response was to go to legislation. Their response was to pick up arms. This is Black Span, y'all. And I'm out. We got to get it together, man.